It's time to wake up, y'all. You're listening to the Armchair Quarterback Show. We're here weekdays on CBS Radio, YouTube Live, 8 a.m. Eastern, 7 Central, 5 Pacific. The Armchair Quarterback Show, your first choice for Southern sports talk. Good morning, Mr. Justin Waller.
Good morning. I don't know much, but I know one thing. There's only two things that come from Texas, and neither were the color orange. That's why there's only one UT. Go Vols.
I don't know if that's the appropriate joke since Homeskillet announced what he announced for the Raiders yesterday. You're listening to the Armchair Quarterbacks.
Oh, where are you going?
After 12 years in the minor leagues, I don't try out. Besides, I don't believe in quantum physics when it comes to matters of the heart.
What do you believe in then?
Well, I believe in the soul. The small of a woman's back, the hanging curveball, high fiber, good scotch, that the novels of Susan Sontag are self-indulgent, overrated crap. I believe Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone. I believe there ought to be a constitutional amendment outlawing AstroTurf and the designated hitter. I believe in the sweet spot, softcore pornography, opening your presents Christmas morning rather than Christmas Eve, and I believe in long, slow, deep, soft, wet kisses that last 3 days. Good night.
Oh, my. Armchair.
Community Access Channel.
He's the armchair quarterback. He's full of beer and he's full of snacks. The all-American man with a Cuba in his head.
Yeah, howdy, hi. Top of the morning to you. Welcome to the Armchair Quarterback Radio Show. Mac McGee and Justin Waller. Justin, how the hell are you?
I'm doing great, Mac. It's the Battle of UT today, and I don't care the sport.
Sorry. Stop that stupid. Stop!
It's singing to me. My day is beautiful.
Is it your birthday? Is it my birthday? Am I having a stroke? Sorry.
Felt like it after last night. What a game by the Wolfpack.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. So I was trying to bounce back and forth. So much junk that was going on at the same time. You had the Wolfpack downing VANDY, which is ironic because we're talking VANDY football today. You've got the big game today, obviously. University of Tennessee tries to stave off elimination against Texas. But then last night, you had the Braves and Mets doing their doubleheader. I thought I was going to be in for a heck of a treat for a big game 5 down in Tampa, but that was that turned into a snowman. 8-0 Tampa wins that. So that game was unwatchable after the first period. It was just like it was just a barrage of goals, and the Islanders had put their backups in essentially for all intents and purposes by the third period because they were just like, we got to get ready for game 6. All that going on. I feel like I'm forgetting something else that I was trying to stay locked into. And I know I had the College World Series, I had the Braves, and I had the NHL. I feel like there was something else. The NBA took the night off last night. The big news that came out yesterday, let's go ahead and clear this off the docket. Carl Nassib, or I don't know how to pronounce his name. I've never heard of him. Comes out as they're trying to say he's the first NFL gay player. What the hell was Michael Sam in 2014, Justin?
Well, they're putting the caveat active, which doesn't make sense because I thought the same thing when I saw it, but I don't understand it.
Right, so I thought I was crazy. I went back and looked at it. He did participate on the practice squad for both St. Louis and then when he was cut right before the season started. So he was in NFL preseason games. He was on the practice squad for the Cowboys. Is that not technically active? I feel like it
is.
I look, good for him to come out as a role model for kids. I think it's more for kids that are like 16, 17, struggling with these kinds of things. Good for him. But I feel like Michael Sam's being forgotten about as the guy who kind of broke the door open.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of how I took in everything yesterday. It's kind of along your lines. I mean, it's for the younger folks, the
Did he get
kids
cancel
that
cultured? Well,
obviously are probably struggling with it, or need that courage and support. And good for him. I'm glad that he can do that for and be that influence. So, but I did feel like it diminished Michael Sam. I didn't understand the way that it was written out, and I feel like just throwing the word active in there, you diminish what Sam accomplished. So that was just my take on it.
yeah, I didn't understand it at all. I was just, I guess I was more dumbfounded than anything else of the fact that why are they making it out to be like he's the first? Because he's not the first. He's far from the first. And so that's what I was dumbfounded by. But anyways, we will move on from that. Like I said, good for him to be a role model. There's people who are, who go through these, I don't understand what they go through, but it's enough where it causes attempted suicide. So good for him on that stage. I just felt like Michael Sam is just being kind of forgotten, almost like he just absolutely, I don't know. I guess I'm making too big of a deal out of it. I was like, what happened to Michael Sam? Michael Sam doesn't count. Because he didn't technically was in. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't get it at all. But anyways, we'll move on from that. The Isles get smoked by Tampa Bay. There's nothing really to talk about there unless you have something in particular that you want to dive in here on the first quarter of the Armchair Quarterbacks.
I mean, I don't normally get to applaud David Ross, so I mean, I'll take time to do that right now. Yesterday, he actually pulled Javi Baez because he forgot how many outs were in the inning, and he was on first base, routine fly ball to, I believe it was center. Anyway, it wasn't enough to advance him, but he took off. There was only one out, like there was two, and made an easy double play and ended the inning and found the pine after that. So I'll stand up and applaud David Ross. Good job there. Be professional. How many outs are in the game?
Yeah,
That's a Bush League mistake. Kids can't do that. You can't do it as a professional.
But at the same time, Tom Brady didn't know what down it was. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm pulling him. Unless now one thing is I have not followed that closely. If this is something he's done repeatedly, and I guess that's something that if Joey's watching today, or I'll ask him on Thursday if this is a continuous mistake. If it's because people have, what do we call them, brain farts or whatever, where they're just like, I mean, I remember Larry Walker handing the ball to the kid in the outfield, right? Because or in the stands because he thought it was third out. They had to run over there, and thankfully the kid was nice enough to give him the ball back. I'll tell you what, if I was sitting in that outfield and I was pulling against this team, boy, I'm like, nah. I'm going to buy at least enough time where my guy's going to score. So I get what you're saying. I would like to know if this is a bit of a thing with Javi Baez. If it hasn't, then it might be a little, because the one thing you could lose a kid like that, because he's not a whippersnapper per se, but he's young-ish. And
I'm going to say David with that locker room as a coach's player. I'm going to tag him as one of those. So I think he's got a good temperature of the room, and I would say there's probably an underlying condition, probably effort. Joey can allude to that when we meet up with him, but I would assume it's been an ongoing thing. Hey, it goes back to running out to first base. I'm just old school like that. I mean, if you don't run out to first, then I don't care if you're out or not and you don't think you could get it. He could always drop the ball. Run it out. Doesn't matter. Your job as a major leaguer is to teach kids the fundamentals of baseball when you're out there playing the game. I mean, they're watching you and emulating your game.
Yeah, I wish I'd actually seen the play. I missed that. I
forwarded it to you so you could clip it. You hadn't had a chance yet, but you'll see it when we get off air.
I'm hoping that I see it on. I always have Quick Pitch on. I just didn't see it because I've been recording the Braves Country today before we do this show, so I have time to do that. And then after the show, I always do the Take Me Out to the Ball Game today, which is just the quick news and headline show that I've started a couple of weeks ago. But that is interesting because you don't expect that. Now, do you think Snicker would do that? Now I know that Acuna had some issues 2 seasons ago, but if Acuna did something very similar to that, would Snicker do that?
Well, I say the running to first base would be the similarity. Or, I mean, for him in his position would be dropping a routine fly ball. I'm not talking a laying out dive that, you got a 50-50 shot. It's an improbable catch at best. If he gets it, great. If not, the best he does is trap it and it doesn't roll to the wall. I'm talking a routine fly ball. I mean, I'm all for that. Bench them. Roll them in and out. Spark up your lineup, especially if you're having difficulties. Hey, nobody's untouchable. That's what that tells the roster top to bottom. And that's how you have the chess pieces to move in and out of your roster, next man up, that they all perform at that level, because it's the same responsibility expected out of every player. Doesn't matter the paycheck or the title or the seniority.
Well, I'm going to rattle Joey's cage. I just quote tweeted him to see if we can get him to chime in here the next 10, 15 minutes. Hopefully he'll I'll keep an eye on the.
And then the only other big thing that happened last night was just Stanford's onslaught of Arizona. Didn't see that coming, especially the way Arizona played against Vanderbilt. They thumped them.
Dude, I look terrible. We praised Arizona. I talked about this wasn't one of the better Stanford teams, and then they just went out there. I did not see that.
They broke records.
I was like, is John Elway back out there playing outfield for them? How the hell are they doing this? I watched a good portion of that but to be honest with you, when the Braves doubleheader began, I got locked into that. I thought that Mueller kid pitched pretty well. Hopefully he gets another chance to do another start. Knowing Snicker, he won't. He'll say, well, you pitched too well. We're going to go ahead and pull you, and we're going to stick some other bozo in. But I thought he pitched pretty well. I still was a head scratcher because they flip-flopped that last minute, Justin. For people who didn't see that, it was originally supposed to be Ian Anderson versus DeGrom, and then they punted Anderson to the night game, put Mueller out there. And I get it. They figured that gives them a better chance of splitting, and they did split. But I felt like that was chicken crap. Okay.
You stole my words exactly.
Because I feel like Anderson steps up in these big moves, especially he does it big time when he's up in the Northeast, because he's from that area. It just seems like he takes it to another level. And I would have liked to have seen Anderson versus DeGrom. And the way the game played out, Atlanta would have had a decent chance of winning that game. The way Anderson pitched and the way DeGrom pitched, that would have been a really good game. Braves got screwed on the ball bounced on the on their warning track that must be made of rubber or trampoline or something, because if that ball does not go over the wall, at least one run scores right there, and we got a tie ball game, and you manage the bullpen much differently in the next half inning. But I was disappointed because why not put Mueller up against the kid that the Mets had going last night? I didn't understand. I was like, you're 5 game. Hey, look, if we had a 5-game lead, I get it, because you're like, I'm not trying to get swept, right? And so I'm not trying to get this thing to just disappear. But when you're down 5 games, I feel like you have to have a little more aggressiveness, don't you?
Absolutely. I mean, that was, I alluded to it again. You stole the words out of my mouth. That was straight punting a split at best case scenario. You were not trying to close ground. You're coaching like you're leading the division, and you're just wanting to hold on. You're not in that position right now, Snit. Anderson, we have seen in high pressure situations. We've watched that young kid in his first appearance, and I believe his second big start was against the Yankee lineup as well. Or he's had the Yankees back-to-back years in their lineup. And we've seen him perform and excel at that. You don't think he could handle the Mets lineup and then to match DeGrom? I think that kid elevates his game in those situations. And so I would have really liked to have seen him battle out DeGrom and see what you got, let the kid go. And like you said, then you have a chance to maybe win that game. And if you could steal a win, you don't know. Mueller pitched well enough that there's a good possibility you could have raked out that second one. Now you close a game on your division leader, actually 2 games. I mean, it would have been straight a 2-game close. Now you just hold serve and you're dead even where you started. So you gained nothing yesterday and essentially wasted an outing of Anderson.
And the way I look at it, now you're really putting a lot of faith in the fact that you're going to take the next 2 games, because you didn't want to come in and split. I mean, look, I get it. You're at New York. It's not do or die time. We get that. You really want to make sure you don't lose the series more than anything else. but you haven't, and because tomorrow's game, they have not announced a starter. Okay. For the Mets, and they got hit by a lot of injuries for people that missed that over the last couple of days in their bullpen. So there's an opportunity for Atlanta, who's got Morton versus Stroman today, which is going to be rough. I mean, if Morton comes out and pitches the way he did last time out, hey, I'll take my chances. But if he does what he has been doing typically this year, which is barely getting through 5 innings and giving up 4 earned runs, Marcus Stroman is probably not going to give that up. So I guess my point is you've got a really good opportunity if you can somehow win this game to win the series tomorrow, because Max Fried versus question mark. I'll take my chances on Max Fried, right? Today's pivotal, because if they lose this game, then you're fighting for your life. Make sure you don't leave here to go 7 games out of first place. And if you win tonight, you can possibly be only 3 games out of first place, which is a big difference heading not that far from the break. So what are we, about 3 weeks away from the break where you can kind of reset things? It's going to be interesting, but we got to dive into the Vanderbilt football. The Commodores anchor down, as they say, whether we like it or not. We feel like we have to at least cover this once a year. So we're going to do our due diligence today. We apologize for all people who get in the way of this, but the Vanderbilt Commodores are going to be. Do you expect them to be much better this year?
I think they'll be a little improved. I like Lee's defensive mindset, and then bringing in Jesse Minter, the defensive backs coach from the Baltimore Ravens. So I think you're bringing in a lot of expertise on defense. I don't know if offensively they'll be able to stay in, but I think this could be a pesky defense and a roster that builds off what Mason was building, because he had a strong defensive back linebacking core in there. So, they sure up that line. I think that they can make some short-term games and actually be pesky and sneak out some wins with a tough defense this season. But I'm not going to say it's going to be night and day difference, and the offense still got a long way to go.
I know it's still early-ish, but realistically, I don't know why, but I started getting excited yesterday thinking about the fact that, it's kind of snuck up on me. I was like, but football season is here, because I've always said that once you get into June and, the books come out, that really begins it. But once you get closer to the 4th of July, which is next weekend, once you come out of that, it's football season in my head, because the camps start opening shortly after that. All the news starts happening, and that's why we have to start diving into these early. But my question is there much of a buzz in the Nashville area for Vanderbilt football this year, or is the mentality of it's going to be the same old junk?
It's just more of the same.
Yeah.
I mean, I think everybody's still waiting to see big commitment from the school into the athletics and the facilities to jump on board. I don't know. It's just, it's a fan base that just, I don't know. They just, for whatever reason, don't get into the football.
I mean, I can't look, when you go 0-9, I can't say that they're far off. But
I mean, it's just a shame that they don't put the money in the athletics like they should. They're in the SEC. They should treat it like the athletic powerhouse that they're in. You should dedicate and spend your resources to. I know you want to be a school of excellence, but we've seen Stanford do it. We've seen other schools do it. You can excel in the books and have a high standard and still get top athletes. But you have to have a commitment to athletics, and you have to compete with the other schools on the facilities that are in that same level. And Vanderbilt just hasn't done that over the years. Now, you've seen improvement. They've done it in baseball, but it took 2 World Series to do it.
Right.
Well, it took 1 and a loss, and then, that really got some money trickling in there. But, Vanderbilt's not going to win a natty, and so you can't wait on that to put it into the facilities.
Right. They've really focused their money on honestly in upgrading the baseball facilities. That started around 25 years ago. I remember when they began that, and I was like, really? And then you started seeing, because I guess they just figure it's easier to compete in baseball in basketball than it is to try to build a 90-man roster in football. And I get that, but I'm with you as far as I don't think the Vanderbilt fan base even expects a national championship or even, I don't even know if they even think a conference championship, but they'd like to go to bowl games. They'd like to be relevant. They'd like to win the state championship once every 3 to 4 years. And what we saw last year was just atrocious. It looks like Ken Seals is going to be the starting quarterback, sophomore. I don't know a whole lot about him, but let's go ahead and we won't go game by game like we do with a lot of teams, basically because we're going to have mercy on everybody. But looking at their schedule, where do you see their win total this year?
4-8 with a possible 5-7. I think they got a chance to get their out of conference games and then probably sneak out a win, hopefully between Mississippi State or Missouri. I don't think Kentucky will have as big of a fall off this season. They kind of did it last year, so I expect them to be back. And then just their lineup, the rest of the conference, I don't think they have the roster and the offense in place to hang with those teams.
Yeah, I'm looking at it this year and looking at the Vanderbilt football schedule. I would hope that they could get to 5 wins. Obviously, if you could somehow get to the the 6-win plateau, that would be a heck of a lot bigger deal for Vanderbilt. But let's say, for instance, if we're going to put them in a bowl game and say, okay, they're going to have a decent chance of making a bowl game, where could they get those 6 wins?
All right, I'll rip them off. ETSU at Colorado State. You've got to beat Stanford. It's at home. You have to win that game. Versus UConn, that's 4. And then you've got to pull 2 conference games. So I'm going to give you a 3-week stretch that you've got to do it. They're back to back to back. Mississippi State, Missouri, and Kentucky. You've got to win 2 of them. I don't think you beat Georgia, Florida, or South Carolina. And Ole Miss, the offense, I don't know that they shut it down. And I'm just not going to even entertain the idea that they walk into Neyland Stadium and embarrass us again. So hopefully I never see that in my lifetime.
Yeah. What's the old saying? That's not the look you want.
Yeah. So we're not even going to talk about the last game of the season. That one's off limits. That's an L.
Yeah, we'll get into Tennessee down the road, but Tennessee, I mean, that you talk about must-win game. That's a must-win game. I'm with you. I don't think that my schedule won't load because ESPN's website is a bunch of crap. But anyways, the short of it is I think Vanderbilt's probably I'm with you. I think they're going to struggle to win about 3 or 4 games. It wouldn't shock me if that's putting it, because East Tennessee State, you think they're going to win that. Colorado State, I don't think they win that. Stanford, I doubt they win that.
I mean, those are 2 tough out of conference games right there.
Yeah, I mean, the only 2 games that I can say they better win these is East Tennessee State and UConn. And depending on, obviously we'll know more going in. I think they're going to split, because I just don't think they're going to go out to Colorado State and win. Colorado State's usually a very difficult place to win at. And despite the fact that Colorado State's in a rebuild, I don't think and then Stanford, that's a legitimate Pac-12 football team. That's not like, it's not like you're getting a down year at Oregon State. I mean, Stanford gets good athletes. That'll be tough. It's going to help them that it's in Nashville, but that's going to be tough. I was thinking about possibly going to a Vanderbilt game when I was up there. I was like, I'm not going to go watch East Tennessee State on a Saturday night in the middle of Georgia Clemson. That's just not going to happen.
Well, I mean, October 9th, if they pull off what we say to get bowl eligible, they would be 4-1. They would have to be 4-1 rolling into Florida. You might go down to Gainesville and see the upset there.
Yeah,
the rebuild in the swamp. I'm
allergic to Gainesville, man. I
figured I ruffled Joey's feathers. I'd poke the bear with Tony too.
What's your walk off for the day, sir?
Hey, man, go Vols, battle of UT. I wish we could get this in more sports, this matchup. I don't care if it's football, basketball, baseball, Tennessee, Texas. I want to see more of it.
Amen to that. Hopefully they get the W and then they get I think they get the next day off because the other bracket's going to be doing the same. And so Thursday they would begin, if they were to get the W, they would need to.
They'll have to play the loser of Mississippi State, Virginia.
Right. And I believe that, you know what, that could actually be happening tomorrow because now that I think about the way they do it. But if they win that, at that point, they would have to knock out the winner. You got to beat the winner twice, too. Once you get in that winner's bracket, like the way NC State has gotten their way in, that's the key. Because once you get in that winner's bracket, it takes a collapse to knock you out of the championship. All right, brother. We'll see you Friday.
All right, man. Have a great week.
Yes, sir. We're going to be back in a flash with Bobby. We're going to be talking some National Football League. Keep it locked in here on the Armchair Quarterbacks, YouTube Live, and CBS Sports Radio.
I'll be honest, fellas, it was sounding great, but I could have used a little more cowbell.
It's time to jump into DraftKings. Go to DraftKings today at DraftKings.com. Golf, NASCAR, soccer, you name it. And, of course, Major League Baseball, basketball, hockey, and football. Go to DraftKings.com. Listen to the Armchair Quarterbacks for DFS advice all year round.
Oh, wow. I'm pretty sure that's going to be there it is. Another flag on the play.
Multiple flags on the play. Holding. Offense number 97. That penalty was declined. Touchdown. After the play, unsportsmanlike conduct. Offense number 22. Penalty will be applied to the kickoff.
This is going to be one of the strangest calls.
That son of a... You playing against Dick this week? Yeah. Could be worse, man. When I played against him, he ejected all my players.
What?
Armchair.
Lager, the beer that brought the forest down.
I drive an exotic imported sports car. I eat exotic foreign food like frankfurters and pizza. But when it comes to numbing my mind, I'm a patriot. I drink the beer that brought the forest down. I'm a lager man. And with the new 80-bottle trunk pack, you've got enough for the evening. Hey, it's happy hour somewhere.
Lager brings out the patriot in you.
The Armchair Quarterbacks, ESPN Radio's public enemy number one. Weekdays, your first choice for sports talk here in the Southeast.
What happens when 5 eligible bachelors welcome a little girl into their lives?
Hey, it's my turn in the bathroom.
Non-stop hilarity. My 5 uncles.
Hey, Gina, welcome to your new home. You sleep in there, and we all sleep in here.
The show that shows family values exist even in unconventional families.
Oh, what are you guys doing in there?
Taking hilarious comedy in a whole new funny direction.
I don't get it. Why don't any of you guys have a steady girlfriend? I'm an emotionally abused orphan. Can I get in on any of these group hugs?
My 5 uncles, Thursday nights on LSBC.
I only had a brain.
You're riding Morning Shotgun, your first choice for sports talk here on the First Coast, only on
Armchair.
We live in a world now that welcomes and nurtures the screwball in all of us. Hey, it's a new decade, people. Time to get a little nutty. Treat yourself to Screwball Peanut Butter Whiskey, a smooth flavor that combines 2 of America's favorites, peanut butter and American whiskey. So no more social awkwardness. Time to embrace who you truly are. Get out there and make friends. And be sure it starts with Screwball Peanut Butter Whiskey. It's available nearly everywhere. Learn more at screwballwhiskey.com. Infinium Spirits. Please enjoy responsibly.
Pretty good. It's pretty good.
Good morning. Welcome to the Armchair Quarterbacks. Welcome back on CBS Sports Radio, YouTube Live. And joining us today is Mr. Bobby. Mr. Bobby, how the hell are you, sir?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm doing pretty good. The Braves got a W, much needed W last night, so I'm in better sorts. Not too happy about my Islanders getting thumped last night, but
yeah.
We get one more game and we get the NBA playoffs back tonight, which will be a lot of fun. So you know what? We'll jump into the NBA playoffs in a second because I do want to get to this AJ Green quote because you are a big Cardinals fan, and I'm going to go ahead and read it off real quick because I want to make sure that I get this correctly. And you probably don't have this issue, young Squire, but I have to put out reading glasses now. This is very new to me. I didn't have to do. I always had perfect vision for most of my life. I mean, as long as we're talking about before midnight, then midnight, my vision got a little blurry. Okay, so he starts off with, I never played it with a guy like D-Hop. The guy's unbelievable. He embraced me. We don't have egos, blah, blah, blah. We get that. Pick your poison on Sundays. Okay. And that might be true if it weren't for the fact that AJ Green's about 108 years old now. Now he says the potential of this team, ... I've been in Cincinnati so long, I don't know anything else. So for me, getting a chance to get out, it's all about winning and being in a great environment. And I think Arizona was the perfect situation. So I find this a little funny because, first of all, one of our loyal listeners, Brian, is a big Bengals fan. I don't know if he's listening right now, but I find that part funny. I also find it funny that he's acting like he's going to the Arizona Cardinals, and this is like the Patriot way, like they have championships just up in the banners. What the hell is he talking about? What?
Yeah, we certainly aren't the team with a winning culture. I wouldn't say he came to the right place if he's looking for that. I think you'll have some success out in Arizona, but I think, yeah, like you said, we're not the biggest winning culture in the league.
Well, it's just dumbfounding that he would, the way he would put that. Thank God I got away from the Bengals, which, by the way, he made the playoffs several times with the Bengals. Okay.
Yeah.
I know the Bengals have been bad the last few years, but there was a time period where AJ Green and Andy Dalton were a good combination. They were never a Super Bowl contender per se, but there were a couple of years where I feel like things would have went the right way, they definitely could have made a run. Their biggest bugaboo was they could never get past the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah.
And some of that, I think about, I think that was the 2015 season. So 2016 playoffs, if memory serves me correct, where they had the fatal personal fouls that basically put the Steelers back in a position to beat them. And that's just living with the Pac-Man Joneses and the
Montez
Burris. Yeah, I couldn't think of his first name. Those kind of clowns. But this Arizona team, as exciting as they're going to be, they're also in arguably the most difficult division in football. So
I wouldn't even say arguably. I think it's
most likely. It really will come. Going into the season, I would say yes.
Yeah.
You never know. There could be a division out there that's a little better by mid-season, but I can't think of one off the top of my head that what I would say is as dynamic as this one. Maybe
the AFC West. If Aaron Rodgers makes his way out there, I could see them being the best division.
If Aaron Rodgers ends up in Denver, then it's absolutely the AFC West. That's the one caveat, is that you don't expect Denver to be that great. The only other division I could see is that if you get if you get a perfect world out of the AFC South from those quarterbacks, but a lot of stuff has to go right there. And then maybe the AFC East, but the Jets would have to make a big step. So we are going to talk about the Dolphins here in a second. Before we get back into the NFL with the Dolphins, the NBA playoffs are going on. And so there's no LeBron, there's no KD, there's no Kyrie, there's no Harden. Who the hell else are we missing? There's no Kawhi at this moment.
He may come back.
I would think so, but I don't think he's expected to play tonight.
Yeah, no, I don't even think he made the trip out to Phoenix.
Right. So it tells me that it tells me that they're going to have to make it past this round probably for him to play. So for all intents and purposes, there's probably no Kawhi.
Most likely. I think they could win without him, though. I think Paul George can get the job done.
Nah.
I don't know. He's looked good in the past few games. He's looked red hot
Against Utah.
I mean, I don't know. You saw him last night or the night before.
As Devin Booker, and if Chris Paul can play at some point, this COVID protocol junk is ridiculous. At this point, they should really be following the CDC. They're going off of protocols from last fall.
Yeah.
It's absurd what the NBA is doing with Chris Paul. He's not showing any symptoms. This is contact tracing junk and whatnot. And
he's vaccinated too.
And he's vaccinated. So what the hell was the point of him getting vaccinated? But it's just a terrible look on the league and an embarrassment that is Adam Silver on a daily basis. But when you look at that series, it's going to come down to what Devin Booker versus Paul George. I'll take my money on Devin Booker. And I think their entire roster is more cohesive.
Well, yeah, I think the Suns overall, I think they have a much better roster as a whole. Devin Booker versus Paul George, I feel like it's probably about neck and neck right now. I think both of them were just trading last night shots, just going back and forth. And I think either one of them can get red hot at any moment.
I still give Booker the nod. I think he's got more of a gunfighter mentality than what Paul George does. I will say Paul George has played well the past few games. He's known to disappear too. So Devin Booker to me always Devin Booker is very Damian Williams like to me, where he hasn't been on great teams yet, but he's building something there. And I've said it before. That's what I'm pulling for to win it all, because I think it would be a cool story. I don't really care what the NBA wants. I don't care if they want Los Angeles versus, I guess at this point, from a watchable standpoint, for the market, they would want Los Angeles versus Atlanta, because Milwaukee, Wisconsin is not bringing a lot of eyeballs to the game. Although you would get Giannis, but are you still intrigued by the NBA playoffs with all these guys missing?
I would say more so than I was last year. I really like how this playoffs is shaped up. I know it's been kind of hurt by injuries, of course. Almost every team has had to play through injuries, but that's kind of what comes with playoff basketball. But I really like how all the teams left are competitive teams. There's no super teams. It's not something that we could have predicted before the year started. Nobody would expect the Hawks and the Suns to be in the conference finals. So I think it's fun, and I'm very invested in it.
I'm much more invested in it than I have been, not just last year when they ran everybody off the way they did with all their virtue signaling and all that junk. But I'm more invested in these NBA finals than I have been in quite some time. I'm trying to think of the last time. I guess it was LeBron's Cleveland team when they beat the Warriors after being down 3-1. So I guess Kyrie was on that team. It's kind of funny to think that I was pulling for those two then, and now I can't stand the side of either one of them. But at the time, I was pulling for those guys because I felt like they were the big underdog, and that will always draw me to the television is an underdog, right? A perceived underdog. But now regular season, you still can't get me to watch NBA regular season because everybody makes the playoffs. It's just like hockey. It's just like, what's the point, right?
Yeah.
That's why I've always said that Major League Baseball really needs to be careful about how many teams they put in the playoffs, because if they make it so easy where you feel like if you have a pulse, you make the playoffs like they do in basketball and hockey, you're going to lose the fan who, and there are a lot of fans out there who live, eat, and breathe their particular baseball team every single day, right? I don't run into that many NBA fans like that. I don't run into a lot of hockey fans like that. They'll say they're diehard, but they're not diehard, and the numbers show that because they don't watch every single game. Now, there are some, but even like a guy who I know, one of the biggest hockey fans I've ever known, who's on the show on Wednesdays, Sean, when we were much younger, he lived, eaten, and breathed his hockey teams. I don't see him do that anymore. He watches whatever's trending and whatnot, and he'll watch hockey in the playoffs. He will watch regular season hockey, but it's not like appointment television for him with his hockey team the way it is with my baseball team. And there's a lot of baseball fans that do that. And I see all the complaining on Twitter and da. And I'm like, I always wonder, like, would they give this much of a crap if it looked like they were going to make the playoffs regardless how they did in the regular season? Because when you start going to 16, you're putting in over half the league, which is what the NBA does. It hurts their regular season. That's why college football has always been such a big deal for the regular season.
Because same with the NFL too.
Yeah, but college football's regular season is actually much bigger than the NFL.
Yeah,
because it's huge if you lose just one game. Same thing with the college football. I want to get your take on this because I know that you are a turd fan. So you do watch a version of college football. You don't watch real college football, but you watch the University of Florida.
Whatever.
Are you in favor of the 12-team playoff?
12 would be a big leap, but truthfully, I am.
Really?
I tell you that because I've heard people say yes, it'll be these what's it called? Disincentivize, I guess, the regular season for a lot of teams, but it'll also put a lot of teams that would be on the fringe in the 12-team playoffs. They'll be pushing a lot harder to win conference championships and stuff. And I think it'll be just as competitive as was before, if not more, maybe.
Now, I'm going to pose this question to Tony on Friday because I saw this come up. I don't remember if it was this weekend or the past weekend, but I jotted it down. And I thought this guy had an incredible idea. So you don't lose the bowl tradition of college football. Change the bowl season to the first weekend of the year. And base it all off on what you did last year and what you're going to expected to do this year, right? Kids will play in that.
Yeah.
But if we continue to go to like a 12-game playoff system, the bowl games already are to the point with your generation. You don't even know that the bowl games used to be important.
Yeah.
Like that's probably like just an inconceivable thought process to someone of your age. Wait, why did you care if you won a bowl? It was a big deal. And this is back before the playoffs. When they started the BCS, when it was just 1 versus 2, it hurted a little bit, but not much. You still cared about winning the Sugar Bowl, winning the Rose Bowl, et cetera, et cetera. Now nobody gives a damn because they've already put 4 in. And if you go to 12, I would say that your regular season numbers are going to go down dramatically. I'm not saying don't. I do believe we need more than 4 because it is turned into the Clemson, Ohio State, Alabama Invitational. Those are the 3 teams we're going to be in. You can go ahead and mark it down right now. They're going to put them in, and it's who can be the 4th team. It's usually
that'll be Oklahoma.
It'll be Oklahoma or a terrible Notre Dame team that can't score. It's always a team that has no shot.
I think 8 teams would be perfect.
Yeah, I
think that'd be a good number.
Look, I've been a big proponent of 7, but they'll never go for that because of the greed. They're going to want that extra playoff game. But if you have a 7, have I ever laid this out to you?
I don't believe so.
Okay, so let me put this on you. If you have a 7-team playoff, it means only 1 team gets a bye, the number 1 seed, right? The other 6 will play each other, and then they will move on to the final 4, right? It would incentivize everybody to want to be that number 1 seed, which means when you got to that SEC championship game, let's say it's Alabama versus Florida or Georgia, whoever, and both of them are undefeated. They both know they're going to go to the playoffs. That makes that SEC title game unwatchable because no one's going to put their starters out. They're just going to go through the motions.
But that would make the Pac-12 and the Big 12 championships all the more important, though, don't you think?
Maybe. What I'm saying is if you No, it's actually going to make it less important. It makes it more important the less teams you have. So let's say you get 7 teams in there and you got an undefeated Florida or Georgia in there versus an undefeated Alabama. At that point, that game's huge because you want the week off. And so that's why I think 7 would be perfect. I just don't know if they're bright enough to see the big picture. Because yes, you're going to get an extra money for that extra game of the 1 versus 8 game. But your long-term goal is to make sure that the regular season stays relevant, because if this regular season stays relevant, it's all about the money. If people are glued to your television channel during October, November, September, you can continue to charge big rates. But when your regular season goes in the dumper, like the NBA and NHL regular seasons have for years, that's where you lose. And so I know I'm going to lose this argument, but I could live with 8. I think 12 is incredibly too many teams.
I can agree with that.
You're adding another. If you run the gauntlet, you would have to win 17 games, play 17 games to win the national championship. Dude, that's an NFL season. That's ridiculous. So
yeah, I think 7 or 8 would be perfect. I think
I think 12. You get to the point where I mean, what are we putting in as the 12 seed? I'll have to look this up and we'll talk about it down the road. Who were the 12 teams have been last year, and do we really want to see that 12 seed go up against Alabama at some point? I don't want to see where it's MTSU versus Bama in the second round. It's like, oh, great. The over-under 72. That's the only thing we care about in this game. So anyways, let's move on to the Miami football Dolphins, as the National Football League's not that far away. We're going to get the camps going here. So I think it is about time that we get into the predictions, and we're going to be going full bore here the rest of the summer. So with all that being said, the Miami Dolphins, where do you see them this year? Is this a year where Tua Tagovailoa takes that next step, or is this the year that they go, oh crap, we really don't have a quarterback, back to the drawing board?
I think Tua could take a nice step, but it's really dependent on the offensive line, because they've got a lot of young guys on the offensive line who haven't played great to start off their careers. I think if they can kind of improve on that though and come back with a better season and give him some protection, I think he can be a solid, I wouldn't say a great quarterback, but he can be a good quarterback.
I so don't know about Tua, and normally I have a pretty good feel about all these guys, but I do have to take into consideration his rookie year was the pandemic, right?
Yeah.
And so, and he came out and he even said, I didn't have a full grasp of the playbook. It's not what you want to hear from your top pick, but it is very telling on what was going through his mind, right? And the fact that he always looked like he was running for his life. And when I heard other ex-quarterbacks from the National Football League chime in on this, they all said, I didn't know what I was doing until like year 2 or 3. Now, they just kept that to themselves. Remember the old, was it Mark Sanchez? Do you remember this 5 or 6 years ago, I believe it was, where he said he was seeing ghosts? And
wasn't that Darnold? I think that was Darnold.
I knew
it was against the Patriots on that, I think, Thursday night game.
I knew it was a Jets quarterback. Okay, so it's not as far back as I thought it was. So it was Darnold. And he's essentially saying the same thing Tua is saying, that I didn't know, it's coming at me too fast. I'm looking at this way too fast. And I get that. And I understand that when you throw a quarterback in the rookie situation, that first year, you're going to get what you get. And it's just basically baptism by fire. By this year, and they're adding Waddle is the big thing. They're adding Waddle. They have Devontae Parker. If he can ever stay healthy. I do believe
they got Will Fuller.
They got Will Fuller. They added him to the mix. He's dynamic once again if he can stay healthy. And I think a guy who's kind of underrated, Preston Williams, along with a chain mover in Lynn Bowden Jr. That's an offensive repertoire on the wide receiver angle that is going to be very dangerous. Now, Myles Gaskins, hopefully he can stay healthy. And then they also bring in Malcolm Brown. I think the running back core is a little better. I still think they might be lacking a little bit, but a lot's going to run off the shoulders of Tua. That defense ought to be elite again. Adding Jalen Phillips to me was a big, big deal. I
If
believe
he can stay healthy, though.
Yeah,
He's another one.
right. I do believe Jalen Phillips is one of the more talented guys that was in the draft, period.
Yeah.
And then, of course, across the board, I did find it interesting. They did add a fullback. A lot of teams don't have a fullback, but they added Carl Tucker. And that to me is interesting. If he makes the team, that could be more of a smash mouth type of look. So let's go ahead and dive into their schedule real quick. Looking at, I'm going to rattle off the games, and then you kind of give me an idea of where you see them at. So they're going to start off with the Patriots. They're going to be home at the Bills, at the Raiders, home against the Colts, and at the Buccaneers. Those first 5 games, where are they sitting?
I think they win 3 of those first 5 games. I like their matchup against the Patriots, Raiders, and Colts. I don't like them against the Bills and the Bucks. And I think they start with season 3-2.
Okay. If I look at it real quick, they're going to lose all the road games. I like them 2 and 3. Jacksonville at home against Jacksonville, the Falcons, at the Bills, at home against the Texans, Ravens. So now they got 4 of their next 5 are all at home. Where are they sitting after that?
So I think they'll beat the Jaguars. I think they'll beat the Falcons. I think they'll get swept by the Bills. They're playing them both fairly early in the season. And then I think they'll beat the Texans, and then at home lose to the Ravens.
So after 10 games, where do you have them sitting?
So that'll be 6-4, I believe.
Okay, I've got the same thing. I got them going 4-1 in that stretch, and they're sitting at 6-4 as well. After we hit that, we've got at the Jets, home against the Panthers and Giants, and home against the Jets. Man, it seems like they got a lot of home games. And then, all right, we'll stop right there. Where do you see them after that stretch? At Jets, home against Panthers, Giants, and Jets.
This is some of their easiest games of the season. I think they'll beat the Jets. I think they'll lose at home to the Panthers. I like the Panthers receiving core. I think they'll beat the Giants, beat the Jets, and then go and beat the Saints as well.
So where do you have? Okay, so then you add after that, it's at the Saints, at the Titans, at home against the Patriots. Where do you have their season ending?
I think they'll beat the Titans, and then I think they'll beat the Patriots as well. I think they're going to have a nice season this year with how their schedule played out.
So what is their record after 17 games?
I'm going to put them at 11-6. I know it's a little bit big, but they had a solid season last year, and I think they're only going up.
I could be talked into that. I still just have a lot of reservations about Tua, and they don't have Fitzpatrick to lean on. So I'm going to go with 10-7. Not much of a difference there. I do think 10-7, you're going to be right there in the conversation with the AFC playoffs. I don't know if they're going to. I do think they're going to get one of those Bills games, most likely the one that's in Miami, especially because it's early in the year and the Bills be sucking wind down in Miami on September 19th. Are you kidding me? It's going to be hot and they're going to be muggy and they're going to be like, you're not in Kansas anymore, Toto. So, and it's a big advantage to Miami that they play Buffalo as early as they do in Buffalo for years. Cause I grew up a Dolphins fan before my fandom changed after moving around, but for years, the Dolphins would struggle mightily if they had to play in Buffalo in late November into December, because any kind of cold weather, I mean, they essentially don't want to get off the plane. So so you got them in the. Do you see them making the playoffs, or they're going to be on the outside looking in?
I do. I think they'll probably be a wild card team. I think it's fair to say that the Bills will win the AFC East. I think it'll be closer than a lot of people expect, though.
Of course, we get 7 teams in the playoffs on each side. See how that works? You put 7 in. Thing is, I've been drunk for that for years. They finally did in the NFL. I don't think they're going to do it to me in college because I just think they're going to get too greedy and not see the big picture.
Yeah.
All right, it's time to turn back time and get the hell on out of here on a Tuesday edition. Where's the little soundbite at? We will get rolling here. By the way, who wins tonight in the Suns?
I'm pulling heavy for the Clippers, man. I really want to see the Clippers win. CP3 is still out, Kawhi out as well. I wouldn't be shocked. I think the Suns will probably win, but the Clippers are pretty dangerous when they're down 0-2. So I wouldn't count them out.
They have been. I'm looking forward to not seeing that until tomorrow morning when I wake up and I watch the replay. They start the game so damn late when it's the only game.
I know.
Like, what do you?
Well, they got the lottery tonight too, so they got to kind of cram it all in.
California's working. They got the whole state shut down. If they're either shut down or they're outside homeless because their governor. Just put the game on at normal time, you morons. All right, it's time to turn back time. All right, on this date in sports history, we'll go to. I feel like I've used him way too much recently. Sandy Koufax in 1959 strikes out 16 Philadelphia Phillies. At the time was the record. Nowadays the record's 20. And people are like, 16. The game was so much different back then. It was an embarrassment to strike out. Striking out 16 in 1959 would be the equivalent of striking out like 24 today. Because he was that unseeable. People still say he's the best left-handed pitcher to ever play the game. I'm always on the fence with that because injuries took him from us way too early. This is also on this date in 1961. Ernie Banks ends his 717 game played streak. Do you know what Ernie Banks was most famous for saying? Do you know
his name? I don't know his saying though.
Do you even know who Ernie Banks is?
I recognize the name. Yes, I do that.
All right. So his nickname was Mr. Cubby because he played for the Chicago Cubs in the 60s, 70s. He was one of the best players. Also, I believe late 50s when he started. He was one of the best players that they ever had, a Hall of Famer. But his famous saying was, "It's so nice. Let's play two." Anytime you hear someone say "Let's play two," that's Ernie Banks. He played for the Cubs. Of course, they were all day games back then. They didn't get lights till 1988. And he was just one of those guys. He was one of those guys that today the media would have loved him because he was an upbeat, chipper guy, always laughing, and they would have loved to have had a microphone from him. He was a little before the age of cable television. And so because of that, he's not as big a name. Like he would have been a baseball version of, I'm trying to think of someone who's almost like a Peyton Manning type, like that kind of jovial. I've seen him in a lot of interviews since, but anyways, birthdays.
It's your birthday today.
All right. Are we doing dead or alive?
Let's do a live today.
Okay. I always want to do an alive guy. All right. How about, do you know who Clyde the Glide Drexler is?
I'm a Trailblazers fan. Of course I do.
Hey, I had to hit you with it, man. I
do. Come on.
Because if you said you did, I'd be like, go back to ESPN Classic, or where the hell you find his games at, and watch like these 17 hours in. Clyde the Glide. Do you know where he played college basketball at?
Where did he play college? I don't know. No.
He was a Houston, played for the Houston Cougars. He was on the nickname of the Houston basketball team in the early 80s that also had what's his name? Not Samson. Samson was at Virginia. Olajuwon. He was on the Phi Slamma Jamma. Is what they called it was the nickname of the team.
I teamed back up on Houston in the future.
What's that?
They teamed back up in Houston eventually.
They did, which is why it was a big deal. The Phi Slamma Jamma. That's essentially what brought him back to Houston, is because he's originally from New Orleans, but essentially Houston, obviously New Orleans didn't have a team at the time. That was the closest team to his hometown, and he was going back with Olajuwon. Of course, in the mid 80s, it was Olajuwon and Ralph Sampson. They were called the Twin Towers. Of course, this is long before 9/11, so you could call it. You could,
can't really say that now.
Arguably the best center combo in the history of the NBA. You didn't typically have two dominant centers like that on the same team. And and the only thing that stopped that team from winning from winning the NBA title is the best basketball team to have played basketball in the modern era, which was the 1986 Celtics. That was the only team. If it wasn't for the 86 Celtics, the 86 Rockets would have been a championship team. And then injuries got the best off Sampson. All right. What is your walk-off for the day, sir?
8:30 Eastern time, NBA draft lottery. I could say the Suns game, but there's a player in this draft, Cade Cunningham. He's pretty much a guarantee to be the #1 pick. I think whoever ends up with this pick tonight, I think it's going to change the trajectory of their team for a long time. And I'm looking forward to it.
I have not looked at the lottery percentages. Who is the favorite to get the top pick?
Well, the system now has it so it's like a 3-way tie every year for who has the best odds. It's Houston, Detroit, and Orlando. Those are the 3 teams. They both have 14%.
Ugh, it's going to be a disaster wherever he goes.
Houston might not be bad. I mean, they got some young talent.
Selfishly, I hope he ends up in Orlando, but that's a disaster wherever he goes. I didn't know if there was a team that was like out there on the outside looking in. Do the Pelicans have a chance of grabbing him?
They have a 4.5% chance to get the #1 pick, so not too terribly high. Toronto has a 7.5% chance. Golden State 9%. Oklahoma City has an 11.5.
Golden State ends up with Cade Cunningham. Look out!
Oh man, that would be. Whew. They wouldn't even need Clay, really.
They'd have yet another guard, and it's gonna be 4 guys standing behind the arc and Draymond Green trying to fight for my walk-off for the day is College World Series goes on today. The Vols and the Longhorns at 2:00 should be a lot of fun. And then of course, if you're looking for a great baseball game, if you're not into the basketball and you're like, I'm not staying up to watch the hockey, Charlie Morton goes up against Stroman tonight. Mets versus Braves. That should be a really good matchup. All right, brother. We will see you next Tuesday. Great job, and have a great week.
You too.
Goodbye, sweetheart. Well, it's time to go. We're back tomorrow with another show. Well, unless we're fired, we'll talk to you then. Goodbye, sweetheart. Goodbye. Goodbye.
Guys and gals, it's time to go. We'll see you on the next show.
Same bat time, same bat channel.
Thanks for listening to the Armchair Quarterbacks on these CBS Sports affiliates and catching the show on YouTube Live. We're here weekdays. Find Armchair Quarterbacks on YouTube Live today. Please subscribe and share and take us everywhere you go. The Armchair Quarterbacks, your first choice for Southern sports talk, live from the First Coast.
Gonna get another cigarette, please get